It's working. Wow, 20 minutes later. Sorry, guys, if you guys are still there. I can't read messages now, which is fantastic. Nothing but issues. I don't know why YouTube's not wanting me to go live today, or not wanting me to be successful at least. But we're going to do it. We're going to do the best we can. It might be a quicker one now that we're 20 minutes in. But anyways, just wanted to say hey and thank you guys for, being nerds and being interested in stuff like this. I am a professional e-bike mechanic and builder. People always ask me, like, what does that mean? It just means that I mess around in my shed with bikes for a while, and I build bikes and I repair bikes, and I love it. If you guys are interested, I do consultations. I had to start doing consultations. I was getting phone calls all day, every day. And, when I first started, I was answering, and I would answer the phone all the time. And I would be on the phone for 4 or 5 hours a day, giving free advice to everybody who would call. That quickly became not sustainable. So I had to set up paid consultations. So if you want my opinion on something, feel free to book a 10-minute consultation. It's $10. And usually I always save you at least $10, if not a couple $100 on just buying the right bike the first time, or buying the right components, not buying the wrong thing. So yeah. And also just to touch again, we are moving at the end of the month, end of June. So we're doing a moving sale. I don't want to move all that stuff, and it makes no sense to pay to move it. Let's do a sale. So we're doing 20% off everything except for motors and batteries. Those are the only thing that it's hard to keep in stock. So everything else is 20% off. I think that's about it. I think we're at about 2 minutes. I think everybody's sat down, got themselves a drink and made themselves comfortable. Got your popcorn ready. We're about to start the show. Trying to pull up comments so that I could see what you guys are saying, because right now I can't see anything. There we go. I can see it now. Okay. Thanks. My wife is working very studiously behind the scenes making this happen.
Trying to.
She's trying to. She's doing a great job. Okay, let's start up from the beginning. Let's start answering questions. This is a Q&A. This one's for you guys. Okay. I hear you're the man. Rick, stop. You're a professional thug. That's true. Well, not anymore. I used to be, but I've changed my ways. Now I'm an e-bike guy. I'm trying to do good. No longer a professional thug. What's your profane kit situation? Got plenty of them. Motors are not hard to come by. Batteries are. Some of the other stuff is kind of hard to come by, but motors are a little bit easier to come by. Got any e-bikes for sale? Yes, I do. They are built to order. So depending on which ones you're looking for, I'm really slimming down until July, until I finish my move, and then I really want to start expanding my e-bike lineup. That they'd all be custom e-bikes featuring mid-drives. I really like making custom bikes for people. Some people don't want 50, 60 mile range. Some people do want 50, 60 mile range. So you need to be able to tailor each bike to that. I never like the idea of selling one bike that has the same stock specs. It just makes no sense. And I mean, if you're watching this, you get it too. So yes, absolutely. I want to start. I want to have a bike of all the different styles, like a fat bike, folding bikes, mountain bikes, full suspension mountain bikes eventually, of all the different ranges too. Not everybody needs like a super high-end e-bike, spend $3-4 grand. Some people just want, just something to go putz around on, go run to Costco, just go enjoy the scene, but they don't want to have total garbage components. And so, I want to have everything, like good components, but like on an affordable level, somewhat affordable. I mean, that's a relative term, but I'd like to kind of have a bike that fits everybody's need. And you know, we're going to start working on it. I think once we move to Vancouver, we're going to do like a collective breather, reassess things, and just kind of find out where the needs are, and I don't know how we can be a little bit more, I don't know, impactful, I guess. And I don't know. We're just gonna see how we could just be better. So yes, but I do have some bikes for sale still. I think I got like 6 left that I'd like to sell before I move. So you can go on johnnynerd.com, check out the complete e-bike builds. And you know, if you see something you're like, but I want it differently, just message me and be like, hey, I want this bike, but I want you to add this, or I want this motor instead of this, or this battery. So like, that's fine. I'll send you a custom invoice, and yeah, let's get you in the bike you want. Johnny needs a nerd out brand motor. That's so funny. I think about that a lot. Not that I want to design my own motor, because that's just a whole other thing, but so I got a video out, and it's all about, you know, what e-bike manufacturers don't want you to know. People probably have seen that one, and I get a lot of comments on it, a lot of hate about like, that's how everybody does it. That's what Apple does. Nobody makes their own stuff. And that wasn't the point of the video at all. It was about rebranding. And I always think, I'm like, I sell Bafang motors, but like what e-bike brands are doing, it's like as if I was selling the Bafang motor as my own motor. Like if it was like, this is the Johnny Nerd Out motor, like I'm the manufacturer. It's like I had nothing to do with designing it, manufacturing it, welding it, soldering, anything. I had nothing to do with it. But that's what a lot of e-bike brands do. They have nothing to do with any of the design, anything. All they do is they click, yes, I'd like to buy in this many quantities, and they call it their own brand. And I think that's unethical, to say the least. Best bike under $1,000 retail new to convert into a mid-drive. It's a great question, man. It's a. This is why I do consultations, because I'd have to know, Jake, like what's your riding style. I wouldn't want to set you up with I could go full suspension bike if you're going to be like, I'm going to be doing a lot of trail riding, I need to do this. I'd say let's go full suspension. Generally, or if you're like, I need a folding bike to do this, or a commuter bike, like a rigid frame commuter bike. But generally, I'd go with a hardtail. I'd go with a hardtail mountain bike, because those you could outfit to be anything you want. You put on a front suspension fork of your quality, put a rack on it. You could outfit that thing to be a pack mule, and a comfortable one. You put skinny tires on it, fat tires, turning it into a trail bike. That's why I always recommend going a hardtail mountain bike for most people. But, you know, I get in trouble when I say go hardtail mountain bike, because someone's like, well, I needed a folder bike. Why did you tell me hardtail? I'm like, well, I didn't know your specific use study. So it's funny. I get all these comments of people who are just always like mad at me, it seems like, for saying, you know, kind of vague. I try to give information that's going to fit the most amount of people. But if you want specific answers to your questions, get on the phone with me, like book a consultation. That's the best way. But that being said, long-winded way of saying, $1,000 mountain bike. I always love the Trek Roscoes, but I think even like the lowest end one, brand new, is like $1,100 or even $1,200. So if you could make that instead of $1,000, $1,200, I'd say the Trek Roscoe. Otherwise, maybe even like the Trek Marlin. I think the 6 is about maybe even like the 7 is the highest trim level under $1,000. But it really depends on what kind of style you want. But yeah, Trek Marlin, things depends if you're going on sale, but otherwise you could get a Trek Roscoe used, very good condition, that's almost like brand new, for under $1,000 all day. How is Bike Tricks getting 300 Newton meters of torque? I don't know. Funny math? Like, I don't know. What are they saying now? I'm gonna look that up. Bike Tricks, 300 Newton meter of torque. Bear with me. Oh yeah. I think I did read this. No, I think it could be. It could be. I know the The CYC puts out like 250 Newton meters of torque, the CYC Pro. So, I mean, getting to 300, it isn't insane. It's not like, I don't know, unthinkable. 250, I mean, even like the Bafang, like the BBS HDs and the BBS O2s, it's like 120 to 150 Newton meters of torque or something. That's plenty. I mean, that's a lot. You guys know if you guys ridden this, but no problem, Sky Mage. Thanks, Ricky. Okay, so you bought a BBS02 complete kit from an Amazon returns auction. Interesting. Can this be tested before I install? Yeah, I always recommend people to install the motor before you put on the bike. It even says like if you buy from me, but you know, I'm not gonna shame you from buying from Amazon. I'll let the rest of the people do that. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I always tell people like troubleshoot it before it's on your bike, because once it's on the bike, it's a lot harder to diagnose. Even then, it's not very hard, but it's a lot harder than if you had it on your desk. You hook everything up, and it's not very difficult. You hook up your motor to your battery and your throttle and your display. Essentially, that's really all you need. Hit the throttle, make sure that the motor spins. You can mess with the different pedal assist levels, make sure it's got the varying levels. You're only gonna be able to do it for about 20 seconds or so before the motor says, hey, we're not getting any speed detection from a rear wheel, and we're gonna shut it down just to be safe. But at least then you'll know, okay, it's working, everything's working good. And then install it on your bike. And then if it's not working, then you'll be like, okay, wait a minute. It was working 10 minutes ago. Why is it not working now? And then you could kind of backtrack and be like, before you start going to your seller, being like, the motor doesn't work. And it's like, it does. It's just, there's something, there's a lot of different connectors. And if one of those isn't on perfect or isn't, if it's just barely off, yeah, that'll throw it off. So yeah, absolutely. Any general advice on waterproofing? Get like some silicone. There's a lot of waterproofing gels. Go to Home Depot if you really want to. They come pretty waterproof. I commuted year round in Portland where it rains nonstop, and I still ride that same motor. And never had any issues with it. But if it is something where you're like, I want it to be, you can put, it depends on how nerdy you want to get with how nice it looks. I mean, if you don't really care, you can put roofing tar, like the Henry's roofing tar, like around the seals and the gaps. And that'll, man, if you've ever gotten Henry's on your hand, like repairing a roof, it's not coming off, and that works really well. And it's black, so going on the black motor shouldn't be an issue. It's just, there's a lot of different options. I'm not saying that's the Johnny Nerd Out preferred method, but are disc brakes required for an e-bike or just preferred? They're just preferred. I've done so many bikes where rim brakes are actually better. They actually work better than hydraulic disc brakes. So don't judge a book by its cover. Don't go by, oh, it's got this. It doesn't matter. It really depends on the quality of the brakes and how well they're adjusted. If you have rim brakes and you're thinking about converting it, what I would do, and if you're worried, like, oh, I haven't, updated it in 20 years, get some new brake housing, run some new brake housing, get a new brake cable, put it in there, lube it up, so that thing is like flowing nice and, nice and easy, and put some new pads on it and adjust it. And all in, you're probably 15, 20 bucks maybe. And you got to really good and clean off your rims. Take some rubbing alcohol and rub your rims. And that, if it's like a good brand, like, Tektro or something like that, it should work great. So, but yeah, other times you could get some rim brakes where you're hitting it and you're like, am I going faster now? I mean, there's such a weird range on rim brakes. So just be careful. Oh yeah, better half fixes everything for me. She's very smart. I'm very lucky. Cool. Good to hear, Rick. Isaac, is the motor on the electric V1 really 500 watt? Probably. Is it? Do you think 500 watts is a lot? I'm not sure. What's the question? Let me pull it up. Or you think that's not enough? Either way, like 500 watts is like, it can be like a decent amount. And it's probably the nominal rating too. You know, at peak, when I used to work at this other brand, there were 500 watt rated motors, but when I actually tested them, they were 900 watts peak, which is a whole nother story. They had no idea. Man, working at a brand just made me, I keep thinking I need to make more videos just reflecting on my time working at these e-bike brands, because if you guys knew, man, like the owners, the people who run it know nothing about bicycles, let alone e-bikes. They had no idea like what their motors were pulling, what anything. And I'm like, we should know this. People are asking, and if they don't, they're gonna be asking. We should have all the data on our bikes. And they were like, whatever. Like, oh my God. Anyways, did the 21 amp hour battery fit on the fuse? Are you, do I have your fuse? If so, yes. Yeah, and it's almost done. And you're going to have a monster bike. Why are you moving? Better weather. Better weather, I guess. I love the Pacific Northwest. I don't know. Going back there. It's a great place. Nothing against Utah. Utah is beautiful too. It's just it's obviously it's very different. But Pacific Northwest, I feel like just has year-round usable weather. It's never like crazy hot and it's never crazy cold. So you could just always be doing stuff. I want to do a BMX. Yeah, I built one. I actually have one listed for sale on my website, plug-in myself, but it's kind of like a giant, it's a single speed mountain bike with a rigid front fork. So it's kind of like a giant BMX. But yeah, you should be able to do a BMX. I haven't done one yet, but I'd like to make more videos on stuff like that. Just kind of having more fun and showing builds that people ask me to do a lot. So yeah, BMX would be fun. Take it to the park and take it to the BMX park. That'd be awesome. Okay, my first question, does X1 Pro parts compatible with the Cyclone? No. Can I use a Cyclone 3000 with a X1 Pro crankset and torque sensor bottom bracket? No. Those are two totally different systems and kits. Cyclone is from the Stone Age. Cyclone, or CYC, is cutting edge. It's a way different system. I'm actually probably going to stop carrying the Cyclone. That might be an announcement I make coming up soon, because I'm telling you, like, I try to warn people whenever they buy it. I'm like, are you sure you want this? It's a pain to install. You're going to lose hair. Do you believe in single-speed mid-drives that runs at higher RPM with some sort of field dampener? Do you believe in it? I believe they exist. Yeah, Mike. I still, people always ask me like, well, I want to do a single speed. Should I still get a mid drive? And I would still say, yeah, mainly because you could still change out your gear ratio. And yeah, if you got a motor that can spin at a super high RPM, like a CYC or something, it really does kind of change your, I don't know. It seems like you get more usage, and that may be incorrect, but I even just for the gear ratio, though, you could go with a really small up front and a really big in the rear, and you could really just tailor it. With a hub motor, you're still not going to be able to tailor it, but there's pros and cons to it. But I would still go mid-drive. What are your opinions on using EV chargers with adapters to charge e-bikes and e-scooters? EV chargers with adapters? I'm not following your question, Eric. Like a high-speed charger, you mean? High-speed charging your e-bike battery is, I'm going to just assume that's what you meant, but using a high-speed charger on your battery definitely shortens the life of your battery. Batteries, if you think about it, they like to be discharged slowly and they like to be recharged slowly, and not to full capacity. And full uncapacity. You don't want to like charge your battery to 100% really fast and then discharge it really fast to 0% and then just keep doing that. If you just kept doing that, you'd probably get, I don't know, 100 life cycles. That would actually be a very good Johnny Nerd Out test. But if you did the opposite, if you just slowly discharged it from 80% to 30% and then slowly charged it back up to 80%, and just kind of played it nice and, nice and motherly like to it, that thing will last forever. You'll probably get 2,000 life cycles out of it. Thanks, Chris Ferguson. I appreciate it. Why are you moving? Better weather. Smash the like button. It'll help make Johnny popular. That's right, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Tell the people. Like I said, guys, if I can't answer your questions here, I try to do my best. But if you want like a one-on-one consultation for you and like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, or what are your thoughts on this? Book a consultation. It's $10. I'll easily save you $10 on making the wrong choice. I've done hundreds and hundreds of e-bike installs and repairs. I don't know. I feel like I feel confident in saying that I'll save you that $10 most likely. I've had so many people just order stuff and I'm like, this doesn't seem right. But I'm like, who am I to say? Or if someone tells me like, I bought this and this, I'm like, you just wasted $80. Why'd you do that? What's a good cassette and derailleur combo for a Trek Marlin 7 with chainline issues? I already got the Lecky. Which Lecky did you get, Aaron? It's weird. Usually the 42 tooth is like a good cost-effective chainring to go with, and it usually keeps the chain on. See, that's the benefit of me having all the different chain rings in my shop, because when I get a bike in and I'm having chainline issues, I could easily just swap. Okay, I'll try the 36. Nope. I'll try the 42. Nope. I'll try the 46. Nope. I'll try the 40. Okay, that's it. Like, you never know which way. It's Goldilocks, finding the right chain ring. Normally the cassette doesn't matter, especially if the chain keeps popping off on the chain ring. Then that, it's a chain ring issue. It's not a cassette issue. If the chain's popping off on the cassette, you probably just have a derailleur issue. You just need a derailleur alignment issue, and that's, just set your set screws. Trek or Giant? Which do you think is better? Probably Trek. I mean, there's different. It's like saying Ford or Chevy. It's like, some Fords are better than some Chevys, but I'd say overall, maybe I give the edge to Trek. Cool. Good to hear, Mark. Got 100 miles on his bike. That ain't nothing. I want to see 10,000 miles on it. Yeah, Gravity, people always, Bikes Direct, people crap on it a lot, but they're decent. It depends. It depends on what you're looking for. It's like saying that the Chevy Cruze is a bad car. It's like, well, what's your parameters? What are we using to gauge what's a good car and what's a bad car? Same thing with bikes. It's like, what's your parameters? Some people are like, they wouldn't even consider a bike that costs less than $6,000 because it's garbage. And it's like, well, I wouldn't say it's garbage, but it just depends on what your parameters are. So yeah, I mean, Gravity is definitely like okay. When people are saying like, I'm thinking about buying a Gravity, I'm like, okay. I mean, hopefully don't get the bottom basement one. I built a full suspension Gravity bike one time, and it was the cheapest full suspension Gravity bike, and it definitely felt like it. There was just, it was okay, but I definitely would have recommended spending an extra $75 to $100. Got something that you could tune, things like that. Much better than going with a Walmart bike, Target bike, or even an Amazon bike. Occasionally you could get okay with an Amazon bike, but generally I say just stay away. Sean, yeah, I'm trying to slim down out of batteries. I don't want to move all these batteries across the country at the end of the month. And I didn't realize I was going to sell as quickly as I did. So I only have like maybe 10 or 15 batteries left, which I was like, I thought they were going to last a little bit longer, but Just buy a battery from like a reputable place, go to like Luna, go to California e-bike, go to Electrify Bike, go to, a reputable reseller, retailer, and you can't go wrong there. It's when you buy from Amazon, like the e-bike components, that it starts getting a little sketchy because it's the Wild West. I am back. I like full suspension. You're full of rage. Bike tricks rock my world. Cool. I'm sure. There's, they make decent bikes. Where to find the Cyclone 3000 chain tensioner? Go to cyclone-tw.com. They sell the parts there. You'd have to pay a buttload to get them shipped from Taiwan. Yeah, it sucks. How much battery can the Enduro bike frame fit in its frame? I'm talking about the frame, so by C. I want to say that I haven't messed with them too much, but I know which frame you're talking about. I know they're like 72 volt. I want to say like 20. They're big. They're like 24, 25 amp hour packs they could fit. They got that giant frame cavity in there, and they'll fit a big amount. Wayne Newman, do you think the gasoline cost is going to really move the e-bike sport forward quickly? I definitely think so. It's funny. I mean, here in Utah, we're only at like 450 a gallon, only 450 a gallon. And people are, starting to get that. They're like, whoa, I think they're starting to see the road ahead of like, this isn't good. And I'm held captive by this. They could charge 850 a gallon and I have no choice but to do it. But if I have an alternative in my back pocket, an e-bike, which literally costs pennies for 100 miles, whoa, okay, I've got an out. I could literally save a whole bunch of money and I could get exercise. Or I don't have to get exercise. I don't have to show up to work sweaty, but I'm going to be a little bit fit. I think people are starting to realize it's not just a toy, it's not just a gimmick. Yeah, I do think that the gas it's really going to change it forward. And I don't know. It's like, I know that it's bad for the economy. It makes the cost of everything else go up as well, all of our other goods, but there's a part of me that's like, let the cost be what it is. Let's stop subsidizing it. Let's just let it be what it's going to be and let it go up to like whatever. It's going to be $12 a gallon because I don't care. But I will when I go. As soon as I go on a road trip, I'll be like, damn. Which Lucky is good for 18 speed? I'm not sure what you mean. You have a 3x6? 18 speed. I think there's a typo there. You probably have between a 7 and a 11 speed in your rear, I'm guessing. But which Lucky is good depends on what kind of bike you got, what kind of offset you have, once your motor's on there. BBS HDs have a little bit more offset than the BBS O2s. So I find like if you go with the HD, you generally need more offset. So you need to go with like a 42, a 40, or a 46. Those have like a lot of offset. So that's a hard question. Sorry, killing time. It's a hard question to answer without knowing your exact bike setup. Do I have a preferred battery? What do you mean by preferred battery? Like preferred manufacturer, preferred style? I prefer the Shark styles. I'm actually kicking around the idea. I got some 52 volt, 28.8 amp hour triangle packs I just got in. And I'm seriously considering putting that on my bike and just putting like Kevlar straps on it so nobody can steal it. I just really like the idea of having like 1.6 kilowatt hours on my bike and just being no range anxiety at all. Generally, I'm not a huge fan of the triangle packs, but man, having a 52 volt, 28.8 amp hour pack, part of me is like, man, I just started envisioning like I could go on I want to make a video on me. I want to ride from Portland to Seattle. I want to like do time trial. I want to be making a lot more videos, guys. And I want to be doing like, how fast can I do it? Like I did a trip from Portland to Astoria, which was, about 110, 20 miles. But I'm like, I want to do it again, but I want to see how fast I could do it. Maybe I'll just bring a bunch of batteries with me and just see how fast I can do it. And I think that's a good way for people to see like, oh, hey, if that guy went from Portland to Astoria in 2 or 3 hours on a bicycle, and had the time of his life doing it too, and saw, like, you know, you see things differently on a bicycle than in a car. When you're exposed to it and you go a little bit slower, you just experience the world way differently in a better way. And I think if people, the more people see that, but I don't know if you've seen my video that I did. I filmed it on a GoPro, and it's kind of hard. It's not the best cinematography, and it's not the best editing. It's a very long video, but I'd like to make more videos like that, just to kind of show what's possible. And it doesn't have to be like a feat of strength. It can be fun. I get voltage on my BBS HD if I keep it on charge too long. Should that be something I should worry about? Not necessarily. I mean, kind of. It sounds like it's more annoying than anything. Sometimes that does happen if you've got a 52 volt battery pack and you're running the BBS HDs, because they have a 52 volt version and they have a 48 volt version. The 48 volt version runs 30 amps. The 52 volts runs 28 amps. That way it kind of keeps the same power going through it. It still keeps it like at, 1700 watts, whatever. But if you run a 52 volt on a 48 volt motor, 30 amps times 58.8, that's a lot more watts than 48 volt. So they kind of try to do that, but my motor that I run is 48. It's a 48 volt version, and I run a 52 volt battery on it, and I've never had any issues with it. So I wouldn't be worried about it. And if you have to change out a controller, super easy. I actually got a batch of 48 volt controllers on my BBS HDs, and I think like 2 people got it. And I had to send them replacement controllers, and it's super easy. And I had someone send me back the motor. I did it. I was like, this is super easy. I should just send them the controller and they can do it, because it's literally like you got to unscrew 3 bolts and then pull some things out. It's like a 5-minute job, and you feel good about doing it. You're like, yeah, I just did a major overhaul on this motor. And it's like 5 minutes, but that's about as overhaul-y as it gets. That's the other reason why I love these Bafang motors, is if you got to do a major overhaul on it, it takes you 5 to 10 minutes, and usually $100 at worst. Try doing that on your pre-made e-bike. Try stripping out your pinion gear from your controller. You got to get in contact with your manufacturer, whatever, see what kind of motor they have. If it's a Shimano, if it's a Bosch, if it's a Bros, if it's a Yamaha. You ain't getting no supports. You ain't getting no parts for it. Plumber's Goop or E600, yeah. Okay, would a fat bike with a different controller work well? I have a BBS02 with dual batteries. Getting bored of it now. Would a fat bike with a different controller work well? Like a I'm guessing you're meaning like a high performance controller? And yeah, you could, but I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't want to like hot rod a BBS02. I'd hot rod a BBS HD. Those things are just, I think, better equipped for handling more power. They're just bigger. Everything's beefier on it. What about grease on the inner gear? I treat the grease on the motor like a car. Every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. Open up the case, try to get out as much of the old grease as you can, and then put on some high quality, Mobil 1 synthetic grease. You could get it, AutoZone for $10 for like a tub of it that will last you the life of your motor. Yeah. You're welcome, Delta. Other than bottom bracket, are there any other critical things to know for compatibility to make sure a motor can mount? I have a 30-year-old bike. I'm trying to get back up to the question. I scrolled down. Holy crap. I'm going too slow. There's way too many questions. Sorry, guys. I'm going to try to get to as many as I can. I don't want to be here all night, and I'm sure neither of you guys, unless you guys don't work tomorrow. You guys all unemployed, like me? Like we're all unemployed, right? No, I wish sometimes. People are like, oh, it's so nice. You work for yourself. I'm like, man, yeah, but when it's you that like decides when to work and when not to work, you find yourself just working all the time, and it's been stressful. So anyways, okay, any other critical things to know? Compatibility to make sure motor can mount. Mainly it's measuring the bottom bracket, the width or the length, and then the diameter. Those are the two things. If it's 34, 35 millimeters, you're fine. If it's 41 to 46 or even more, you're going to need an adapter. I got these Lecky adapters. They work awesome. From now on, I got to make a video on it. I haven't even made a video on them yet, but they're eccentric bottom brackets. So, if you have a 41 or a 46, you got a press fit, you got a whatever, it takes that 41, 46 millimeter hole and it shrinks it down to a standard, 34 BSA adapter. But it also takes that hole, like the other adapters I have, they just put it right in the middle, which usually it's fine. But this one, it offsets it. So it brings it down even lower. So the motor just fits in there perfectly. They're kind of pricey. They're like 90 bucks, but honestly, they're 20% off right now because we're moving and I don't want to move stuff. So yeah, they're cheap. And actually don't tell anybody because I don't think I'm supposed to be selling them for that cheap, but it's an unadvertised sale that I'm advertising on YouTube. So caliper brakes have come a long way. They have soft rubber that grip real well. Yeah, absolutely. Caliper brakes, rim brakes, they're not always bad. People are always like, oh, you converted a rim brake bike? You're irresponsible. I'm like, dude, like, how can you say that without riding this bike? These brakes, I almost went over the front wheel. I locked up the rear wheel on it. Like, come on. Do you absolutely have to get rid of your front derailleur on a mid-drive motor? For Bafangs, yes. For most all mid-drives that I've ever seen, yes. You don't need to have that many gears. Generally you have 7 to 12 gears in the back. That is more than enough. With a mid-drive, I say 7 to 9 gears is probably the ideal amount of gears. If you're going 12 gears, in my opinion, is just too many. You're shifting like a semi-truck. You're just going vroom, vroom, vroom. You're constantly shifting, and that motor is so powerful. It doesn't need to have 12 gears. You need 7 to 9. It's not the amount of gears, it's the gear ratio. So the tooth count from your biggest to your smallest. That's what you really want to do. I would tell people if you have a 8-speed or a 9-speed, try to go, and if it's a cassette, go like 11 to 46 if you can. That's like a 4-to-1 gear ratio right there. And then you times that by your front chainring. You go bigger or smaller. You dial that gear ratio in and your performance changes crazy, exactly to how you want it. And I want to make a video too on like my ideal setup for gear ratio, and spoiler alert, it would be a bigger gear up front, probably like a 46 or even like a 52, possibly Lecky. And I would go with like 11 to a 50 tooth in the rear. And that would be the best, because then you'd have crazy top speed and still really good hill climbing. How fat of a tire can you use on a regular 700C rim? I think I've seen up to like 48. I think it's millimeters. It's not super fat. Generally, those 700Cs, the rim itself is not like built to handle the fatter wheel. So probably like, I don't know. I don't think I've seen fatter than like 46 or 48, somewhere around there, but it might be. Is it okay to use a fatter tire on the front? Yeah. You go fatter on the front and skinnier on the rear. Oh, pros and cons of going with a triangle battery versus shark style. Triangle batteries are going to give you more capacity. That's their biggest thing. In general, they're going to give you more capacity. And shark styles are going to be removable. So you could take it off easily with a key, bring it inside, charge it, Okay, I'm gonna... Yeah, Jory, dude, I'm coming back. I kept thinking, so there's this guy, Jory, he lives in the Portland area, and He's just a really chill dude. And I would just wake up every night and I would tell my wife, I was like, I miss this guy named Jory. You've never met him. Never met him. You ain't never met him. That's why I'm coming back, Jory. You know, everybody else is like, you know, you're doing it for the weather. I'm doing it for Jory, to be honest. I know. Gray bearded madness. People just don't get it. Building your own bike is just so much fun. Or even if you're like, I don't want to build it, having your own custom bike is just, it's awesome. I don't know. I have not built a mid-drive using the Enduro e-bike frame. I'd like to. I've been so busy, but yeah, that's one of those things where I'd like to do. Wenatchee, Washington. I don't know where Wenatchee is. I'm gonna be moving to Vancouver. It's like southern Washington. It's right above. It's like on the other side of Portland, Oregon. But there's no income tax, and then you just go down to Portland and you buy stuff for no sales tax. The rolloffs can generally, so this guy says, I don't think 14-speed rolloffs can handle the torque a mid-drive would put on them. I've never heard anything but positive things about using the rolloffs, and supposedly those rolloffs are like $1,100 plus, but supposedly they're built to automotive grade, close to automotive grade materials. So yeah, I've never heard anything but positives on it. The only thing, the negative about the rolloffs is that they're super expensive. Is a press fit bottom bracket a deal breaker? Absolutely not. Just get an adapter and boom, right in the game. I have no problem. Press fits are super easy. I mean, you just knock them out. Sometimes knocking them out can be a pain. You got to just whack it sometimes, and yeah, but no, they're easy. Just get an adapter. Can a Bafang motor be rebuilt? Yes, but it depends on what happened. Did you burn it out? Then yeah, then you just replace whatever you burnt out. Absolutely. Even like a motor core, like the entire core. I don't have one here, but it's like $150 for like essentially the entire motor. So that's why I always love Bafangs, is that you just can't, if something breaks on it, you just replace that part of it, And I don't know. It could last forever, literally. Rambo Megatron. It's probably this guy asked any thoughts on the Rambo Megatron. They're just overpriced. They're cool. I mean, they're cool for what they are, but man, they're just way overpriced. So yeah, there's kind of some banter here going on, controller noise versus motor noise, and there's definitely both. Sometimes motors make noise. Like if you hear like a BBS02 motor is usually pretty quiet. Obviously it's relative. People are like, oh, it's silent. Nothing is silent. You have a movement going on, but there's definitely, like I did a review on the C3 Strom e-moped, and then it had a hub motor on it. That thing was loud, and that was all in the motor. The motor was loud. Like in my BBS02s, if I hear a noise coming from the motor, I know that it probably needs to be re-greased. It's not the controller, but some motors, yeah, the controller can be loud for sure. Luna. Any thoughts on the Luna Apollo? I think I've seen it a couple times. Luna definitely makes cool bikes too. I might get some hate from this. Luna is kind of like the OG. They were like the original importers of Bafang and all the like the e-bike parts, and they've slowly gone away. Like they stopped carrying Cyclones. They started really limiting their Bafang stuff, and they're really trying to push their own bikes, like the Suran and things like that. They're really kind of turning into that, which I think is unfortunate, but I totally get it. I mean, there's probably a lot less, there's a lot more money and a lot less customer questions. I mean, with Bafangs, I get asked questions all the time about with like install issues. And you know, if it so I could definitely understand if just selling somebody a pre-made bike that's ready to go, like a Suron that needs nothing, that's the way to go. What if you have 3 batteries on your bike at once? You just have a lot of range, I guess. Oh, I think I saw this. So this guy's asking me about the Juggernaut XD with the chain on the other side. So it's actually, I think there's 2 chains. I think there's a chain on the drive side, but the motor actually drives the non-drive side, if I'm remembering it correctly. And I don't see, it's weird. People like, there's a weird line between e-bikes and e-motorcycles, and that line is constantly getting blurred. So it's kind of like, what are you looking for? Like, what do you want on a bike? Like, if you want like an e-motorcycle, I don't think that's very good. I mean, I'd go with like a Suran. Those are kind of cool, like light powered e-motorcycles that are good up to like what, 50 miles an hour, and you can mod them to make them probably even go faster. Like I love doing, I used to always go up into Wisconsin up to like Blackwater Falls where they got crazy sand trails, like hundreds and hundreds of miles of sand trails. We used to take our dual sports up there. And that was so much fun. We'd be the only guys on dual sports, and everybody else had quads and side by sides, razors and stuff like that. We'd be on our motorcycles going on this super loose sand, but it was so much fun. Anyways, I think like if you want like a motorcycle, like it's weird. It's like some people are like, oh, that one only has 2,000 watts and you don't have 4,000 watts. But it's like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for an e-motorcycle or an e-bike? And that Juggernaut XD is kind of weird. I don't know. It's just, it's hard. I don't know. I don't have any thoughts on it. Depends on what you're looking for. What amperage can your battery put out? Can my battery put out? The one on my bike puts out 35 amps. That's all it needs to. I have a BBS HD, which pulls 30 amps max, so it's well within the range of the battery. The batteries that I sell generally put out between 30 and 50 amps. It just depends on which battery you want. What's up, e-biker? 48 volt. What's the low gear? Come on, are you messing with me? What do you think about the Tongshangs? They're interesting motors. I have only carried them very sparingly. I just really like the Bafang motors versus their open source firmware. It's very easy to dial in, very easy. I have limited experience with the Tongshangs, but I don't know. In my time, I just wasn't crazy impressed with them, I guess, and that's why I never really pursued carrying them too much. But you know, there is definitely a need for them and a niche market for them. And torque sensing is definitely nice. I mean, I definitely like torque sensing. Okay, I'm trying to get down. Tesla is the wave of the future. I disagree. I think they were great for what they did. They started the EV revolution, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Elon Musk, he's kind of a weird dude now. I used to like him, but now I'm just kind of like creeped out by him a little bit. I'm not in PDX yet, but I will be there. I will be around that area. Yeah, the Ranch and Dorado down 2 batteries are nice for sure. It's a cool style that they fit in the bike like half the way. Yeah, so this guy, he's like, can you do more videos about solar charging e-bikes on the go? And it's funny, I was working on a setup where I had a canopy going from my rear rack to my front handlebars. I did a couple different iterations, and I should have been filming the entire thing, but it was a total colossal failure. And I have flexible solar panels, and I wanted to just have it so that it went, flexible. So it went kind of like a loop. Wherever I was, I'd be getting at least some sun. It didn't work out, but I want to revisit it. That's for sure something I want to do, and I do want to make more videos about me charging, because there was like a while last year where I was riding around with a giant 100-watt solar panel on my rear rack directly tied into my motor or into my battery, and I did that for a while. And I was like, why am I not filming this whole thing? I don't know. Okay, Buffalo Mind, I'll ask again. I didn't hear you the first time, apparently. Is there any off-the-shelf mid-drive that is actually worth it compared to a DIY slash sending it to a pro like yourself? Is there any, off the shelf, like a pre-made e-bike? I think Saunders has some. It's the short answer is yes, but would I recommend it? No, you're going to pay for it. You're paying for somebody else to do the work that you could easily do in like a couple hours and save $400-500. For me, I'm like, dude, you do the work yourself and pay yourself $100 an hour and get to know your bike. But some people are like, I don't wanna, I just don't wanna, I just want to buy it and ride it. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. There's definitely some wisdom in doing that. However, with bicycles, you're gonna need to repair them. They go bad. If you've ever ridden a bike for any amount of time, you realize things break on them, things need to be repaired, maintained. And I always recommend getting to know your bike, at least very basically. And doing an install, you get to know your bike very basically. You get to know how to do all the very basic adjustments. Your brake, take your front wheel off and put it back on and adjust your brakes. Take your gear shift cable out, run it through a gear shift sensor, and then readjust and calibrate your shifting. That's super easy. So many people don't know how to calibrate their shifting, and it's one of the easiest things to do, and it's one of the most important things to do, in my opinion. But yeah, there's a lot of off-the-shelf pre-made mid drives. There's a lot. I've reviewed some. I really liked my Avidar. That was a cool bike. I really liked that one. It was a lower wattage one, but that was nice. I liked it. Long Way Up. Have I seen that documentary? No, I haven't. I know. It's hard. I watch those things like crazy, and then that's all I want to do. I'm like, I gotta take my bike around the world. There's a guy who did around the world on his like 90cc Honda. That's really entertaining, actually. All right, we're at 53 minutes. Let's try to wrap it up here short-ish. Wish I would visit Europe. Yeah, if I could afford it. Gas prices these days. Unless I could ride my bike there. Hey Johnny, ever consider doing something collaborative with the dudes over at High Voltage? Yeah, I'd consider it. I don't know if they would talk to me. I'm just kidding. No, they seem like cool guys. I like what they're doing. I would love to. You put the feeler out. You tell them. You be our go-to. You be our intermediate, and we'll pay you. Pay you for your gas to go tell the message between me and them. But yeah, I'd love to do something. Hey, thanks, Wild Cascadia Raver. And just to rehash, I do consultations, guys. So if you have any questions or anything like that I'm not answering, oh, my wife is showing me a highlighted question that I need to answer. But if you have any questions that I'm not answering and you're like, I want you to answer my question, just you can book a consultation. It takes 10 minutes, costs $10. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Okay, back to the hand. Heard BBS HD is being discontinued. True or false? If you know. Oh, thanks, SPC Hicks. I think he just did a super fan thing. That was cool. Appreciate that. No. There's been so much speculation, and I always see videos on this of like, get it while you can because it's being discontinued, and they're like kind of people that I almost, almost respect, but they put out a lot of content, so you want to believe them. But I've talked to my manufacturers, my suppliers that I get the motors from, and there's just I don't see a way in which they would discontinue the BBS HD or the O2. The M625, if you see my recent review of it, it's a fine motor, but it fits a different need. And Bafang would be very dumb, and I know a lot of people are like, well, they were dumb for releasing that motor. They would be very dumb to just stop offering the BBS HD or BBS O2 because I think everybody would just jump ship and go CYC. So it's not being discontinued for the immediate future. There's no talks of it. There's people speculating that they are because the M625 came out. They're like, oh, well, they're not going to keep making the BBS HD and the O2 then, right? I mean, it makes sense. But, I mean, that M625 has been out for, I don't know, over a year now. And the BBS HD and the BBS O2, I think the BBS O2 outsells that thing probably 200 to 1. So they would be very dumb to discontinue the BBS O2 and the BBS HD. So, yeah. No, don't worry about it just yet. But I do appreciate it. No, I think Lunicycle is the only one that has a steel reduction gear, which is really cool. Let me see. All right, let's see. What innovations and PEV components would you like to see in the next few years? It's a good question. I would like to see probably more things around, I don't want to say safety, but lighting. I'd like to see more torque sensing mid drives. I'd like to see better lighting equipment that's integrated, turning it more into like the motorcycle realm. Brighter lights, brighter headlights, brighter everything integrated, running off of the main battery, turn signals, brake lights, kind of being more standard. That's what I'd like to see. I'm trying to think. Really, that's about it. Maybe you know what I would like I'd like to see a third party come up with like a windscreen or some sort of like weather device, protecting you from the weather, from the rain, from the wind, from the cold. Just even like a simple windscreen that's universally fits over a bike. Maybe even something that kind of goes over you, like a little canopy, a little tarp. I know, like I feel like I've had these ideas, like, I know how to design it exactly. I'll do it like this, and it's like, but when it comes down to it, it's like my brain doesn't quite work exactly on how to like come up with all the grommets and all the things to do it. But that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see things that make biking year round easier and safer. So lights and canopies. All right, and we got one more minute. Let's see. Let's do one last question. Joe OWS. Yes, I do. That's the answer is yes. All right, I'll do these last two. Can I install a 36 tooth on a 73 millimeter bottom bracket? Yes, that has nothing to do with it. So yes, you totally, well, in theory, you can install it, but will the chain line match up and work great with your bike? That's hard. That's, you know, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. And then let's see. There's one. Oh, ever thought about putting a mid-drive in a velomobile? Yeah, when I used to work in Nomad Cycles, we were working with a company called Columbia Cycle Works, and we were pretty much, I don't know if I should say, I don't want to give out too much information what we're doing because I don't know what is there, but we were working on their bikes. So let's just say that. And they had mid drives in these velomobiles, and they were very cool, and I very much liked them. And yeah, I would love to someday design a velomobile, like an affordable one. I would love to see velomobiles in like the $3,000 to $4,000 range, and I think that will be a game changer. Ugh, I dream about that. All right, cool. All right, thanks guys. I am going to call it. Everybody's got to work in the morning. I apologize about earlier. We had some issues going on. No sound. My microphone wasn't working, and then YouTube wasn't letting me redo it. It was just a major hassle. So thanks for sticking with me, guys. Appreciate it, and thanks for nerding out with me. I'm glad. It really makes me happy that there's this many nerds out there that are interested. Because usually when I talk to like my friends or anything like that, if I ever steer the conversation this way, I start to gloss over a little bit. So this was fun. I like this and appreciate it. And I'd like to be doing some meetups. That's what I want to start doing when we move out there, when we get our settled. I want to have my wife. She's just brilliant, and she is really good at just doing projects. And I think we want to start doing like meetups and doing big rides, big group rides. And there's a lot of people like me and like us that just really get into it. They want to do big, cool things. So, yeah. And if I didn't answer any of your questions, if there's something specific to you that you wanted to hear or see, go to giantnerd.com. I got a 20% off sale going on right now. I'm trying to clear out my inventory so I don't have to move it. Minus motors and batteries. Those are the things that, it's hard to keep those on the shelf. So I'm not going to discount those, but everything else, like, let's just get it gone. And that'd be awesome. I appreciate you guys for your business. We've sold tons of stuff. We've been slammed. I didn't realize we're going to get this many orders, but I appreciate it. And I thank you guys. I mean that. And so, yeah, cool. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later. See you on my next video.